Here's another story from Racing to English. It was written by a boy called Tabarik, and he borrowed a bike from a friend, but the bike didn't have any brakes, so he crashed it into a car. On the second page, you can see some questions, but right at the top there's a tiny little sentence which is actually so important, and it says, "Ask your friend some questions." And we come to a problem with lessons that are designed to go on the internet.
One of the most effective ways of supporting your pupils' learning is through organising interaction between the kids. Really important if you can get them to talk to each other. And I'm always trying to look for ways of doing that. Hence that little sentence there of ask your friends some questions. It's prompting you to put the kids into twos or threes to ask each other questions. And that's enormously helpful and really makes the learning faster. But of course, if you're making an online lesson for a single child, how can you organise interaction between them? You can't. Okay, so if you can't do that, what's the next best thing? Well, let's see what Judith has done with this part of her lesson.
So, task 4. Answer the questions about the text. Question sheet with these questions on will be in Google Classrooms for you to answer. So we're just going to read through. And you can repeat the questions after me. 1. Did Tabarik borrow his friend's car? Yes or no? So, did Tabarik borrow his friend's car? Repeat after me. Did he borrow 50p?
So isn't that simple? All Judith did is ask the children to repeat the questions after her. Oh, and did you notice her pointing when it was time for the students to repeat? So is that as good as putting children into pairs to talk to each other? No, of course it isn't. Absolutely nowhere near as good. Because you're not getting any feedback. Nobody's saying, I don't understand. Nobody's saying, this is how you say it. But that is the best that we can do in this situation. So it's excellent, isn't it? It's the best we can do. We can't ask any more than the best we can do.
Once the students have done that little bit of oral work, they can then do some reading and writing, and by the miracle of Google Classroom, they simply have to tick the box that's the correct answer.
The page from Racing to English that Judith is using has got 3 sets of questions on it. The first set is the ones we've just seen, the yes-no literal comprehension questions. Now then, I've got 5 yes I have, no I haven't questions, such as, have you ever ridden a bike? Have you ever crashed into a car? Have you ever been embarrassed? Now, these questions are really good because they might start a new story. So from that, you look at the children who've said, yes, I've fallen off a bike. Tell me the story, write the story. So I highly recommend those questions. And finally, at the bottom, I've got some WH questions. All of these start with what did Tabarik borrow from his friend? What did he give his friend? And so on. Now, those questions ask you to write a whole sentence. And because we're focusing on the past tense, you've got to change the word give to gave, as in what did he give his friend? He gave him 50p, and so on. So those are just a quick look at the questions. These questions are quite simple to write, so why don't you collect some stories from some children and write some questions like that to go with them. It's very motivating for the children to see their own stories being used in your teaching. Okay, see you in another video.